May it please the court, your honors, opposing counsel, members of the jury. Cold, calculating criminal. These three simple words paint a perfect picture of the defendant in this case, Whit Bowman. Whit Bowman was the mastermind behind the bracelet scheme that cost Rock2World thousands of dollars. Whit Bowman was the mastermind behind the robbery that occurred on August 30th in the ticket booth that ended with Haley Floyd being held at knife point. Whit Bowman was the mastermind behind the fateful event when Officer Winston Thomas was struck by the Tunnel of Terror buggy, the same ride that Whit Bowman was operating. Now, it is the state's burden today to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Whit Bowman acted as a co-conspirator in the three charges: theft by deception, robbery in the first degree against Haley Floyd, and robbery in the first degree against Winston Thomas. Before discussing the particulars of the case, I would like to lay out the instructions for the jury on these three charges. Theft by deception is defined as acting alone or in complicity to intentionally deprive Rock2World of cash and was accomplished by creating a false impression. The offense of robbery in the first degree against Haley Floyd is stated as acting alone or in complicity, using or threatening the immediate use of physical force with the intent to accomplish the theft and threaten the immediate use of a dangerous weapon upon Haley Floyd. Second offense of robbery in the first degree against Winston Thomas is outlined as acting alone or in complicity, using or threatening the immediate use of physical force with intent to accomplish the theft and cause personal injury to Winston Thomas. Let us look at the simple facts of the case. A theft did occur that included a bracelet scheme that cost Rock2World thousands of dollars. A robbery did occur on August 30th, which ended with Haley Floyd, the accountant, being held at knife point. Shortly after that, Officer Thomas was struck by the Tunnel of Terror buggy. These events did happen. There's no question of that. The question in today's case is if Whit Bowman is liable for Cameron Poole's actions by acting in complicity. The state has proved today that Whit Bowman was a co-conspirator in all three of these crimes. Now let's look through the three crimes on their own. Theft by deception. We called Rory Shelton, the mascot, today, who previously worked with Cameron Poole and Whit Bowman, and had seen those two commit a scam at Rules Rivertown with a ring toss. It is no coincidence that a similar scam occurred at Rock2World when the two were together. Later, Rory Shelton heard a conversation between the two where Whit Bowman said, "I'm almost out of my version of the World Tour bracelets." Her version, her bracelets. Tyler Hartman, a big fan of Rock2World, came up and spoke about a conversation she overheard between the two where Whit Bowman said, "Don't worry about your income. I have a different plan of how we can get the money we need from this park." Whit had the plan. It was Whit Bowman's plan that was enacted. Secondly, we are charging with robbery in the first degree against Haley Floyd. Haley Floyd even came up and said that a knife was pointed in her face that looked exactly like Whit Bowman's knife. We had two witnesses today that came up and said that they had seen or heard Whit Bowman tell Cameron Poole about the knife. We had Rory Shelton come up and say that Whit Bowman had said, "Don't worry, I have a knife for you. I have a job that you might need it for." Whit Bowman had the job for Cameron Poole. Tyler Hartman saw that knife being put in Cameron Poole's locker, saying, "You know where it is if you need it." Each step was laid out by Whit Bowman. Cameron Poole just had to follow through. Lastly, we are charging robbery in the first degree against Winston Thomas. Winston Thomas was struck by the Tunnel of Terror buggy, the ride that Whit Bowman was operating. Whit Bowman has operated this ride several times. She knew the ins and outs of that ride. Tyler Hartman had seen that. Had been shown how to speed it up and slow it down, and the blackout mode, which should never, ever be used. However, on this fateful day, when Whit Bowman saw Officer Thomas chasing Cameron Poole after the robbery, she hit the blue lever instead of the emergency red button, the explicit rules in the employee manual. She knew what she was doing when she hit that blue lever. She was helping her co-conspirator get away with the robbery. Thousands of dollars lost. An accountant being held at knife point, threatening her life. And a beloved officer laying in a hospital, fighting for his life. These tragedies are all a result of Whit Bowman's malicious and deliberate plans and actions. Cameron Poole might have been the one who physically committed the crimes, but it is Whit Bowman's plans that were enacted. Whit Bowman, of all the plans, Cameron Poole was just the puppet. We ask that you find the defendant guilty in all three of these crimes. Thank you.
Paige Buckley for the defense. May it please the court. Your Honor, opposing counsel, members of the jury. A gun was drawn. People panicked. Mistakes were made. Today you learn that on August 30th, 2012, Cameron Poole robbed Rocker World. Cameron Poole was the one who went up to the ticket booth, who threatened Haley Floyd with a knife, who took the money from the ticket booth, and who escaped through Rocker World. Now the prosecution is coming before you and charging Whit Bowman with these crimes. The only way the prosecution can do this is that they can prove that on that day, Whit Bowman was acting with complicity. And they must prove to you this beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, beyond a reasonable doubt is the highest burden in our judicial system today. It means that when you think about all the evidence and what you heard in trial, if you have any doubts that are based on reason or common sense when you go back to deliberate, then you must find Whit Bowman not guilty. Now, the prosecution has brought forth 3 separate charges, all of which they must prove beyond a reasonable doubt. First, they brought forth theft by deception. Second, they brought forth robbery in the first degree against Haley Floyd. And third, robbery in the first degree against Winston Thomas. Now, the prosecution has failed to meet each and every one of those charges today. But let's look at those one at a time. First, theft by deception. To prove theft by deception, they had to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Whit Bowman, acting either alone or in complicity, robbed or intentionally deprived Rocker World of $500 or more by creating a false impression. But what have we heard today? Today you learned that no amount of money that was specifically stolen from Rocker World had ever been testified to. The only time money was mentioned in today's trial was when they asked Ms. Kaminsky how much money she was paid to take Cameron Poole from the store by Rocker World to the Midlands Marina. And they have in no way connected that money to the scheme that had taken place throughout the summer of 2012. Because they have failed to mention that any money, especially any money $500 or more, was stolen from Rocker World on that summer, they have failed to meet this element. Therefore, we must find Ms. Bowman not guilty on this charge. Second, they brought forth robbery in the first degree against Haley Floyd and robbery in the first degree against Winston Thomas. And we can look at those together. To prove robbery in the first degree, they must prove that Whit Bowman, acting either alone or in complicity, threatened or used physical force on Haley Floyd and Winston Thomas in an effort to cause theft from Rocker World, and in doing so, either injured or threatened Haley Floyd or Winston Thomas with a weapon. Well, you learned today that yes, Cameron Poole did rob Rocker World on August 30th, 2012. That yes, he used a knife to threaten Haley Floyd, and that yes, Officer Winston Thomas was injured when he was hit by the car in the Tunnel of Terror. However, they have failed to prove that Ms. Bowman was acting in complicity. prove that Miss Bowman was acting with complicity in this instance, they could have proven one of 3 charges. But they have not met any of those 3. Let's look at those individually. First, they could have proved that Miss Bowman engaged in the conspiracy to rob Roger World. Well, the prosecution has brought forth evidence trying to make you believe that the knife that was used to threaten Haley Floyd was Whit Bowman's knife. But what have we heard today? Haley Floyd, the person who was threatened, came before you and told you that she was not even sure it was Whit Bowman's knife. She said that it looked similar, but she could not tell and could not say with certainty that yes, this was Whit Bowman's knife that was used on August 30th, 2012. You also heard today from 2 separate prosecution witnesses, Tyler Hartman and Rory Shelton. Both gave you a story on how Cameron Poole received this knife from Whit Bowman. But members of the jury, if you listen carefully, the 2 stories were different. Rory Shelton came before you and told you that she saw Whit Bowman give Cameron Poole a knife. And later on, Tyler Hartman came before you and said, no, Whit Bowman put the knife in a locker, and that's how Cameron Poole got the knife. Well, members of the jury, if the prosecution cannot even prove how Whit Bowman or how Cameron Poole received this knife, well, that is reasonable doubt. Now, they also came before you and told you that Whit Bowman purposefully turned the ride, the Tunnel of Terror, into blackout mode on August 30th, as Cameron Poole and Officer Thomas were being chased through the Tunnel of Terror. But you heard for yourself, from both Whit Bowman and Tyler Hartman, that on August 30th, a gunshot was fired. And because of that, people started panicking, in particular Miss Bowman. She ducked down and she reached up to turn the ride into emergency mode. She accidentally hit the wrong switch. You heard from Tyler Hartman that the shot was fired and right after the ride went dark. This was not because she purposely hit the button. It is reasonable to assume that Miss Bowman made a mistake when she hit the maintenance switch instead of the emergency switch. Now, the next way that they could prove complicity is to prove that Miss Bowman aided in the planning of the robbery on August 30th of 2012. Well, Miss Bowman got before you on the stand today. She told you that the only reason she let Cameron Poole back into the park on August 30th is because she thought he was going to get the bracelets from his locker and then leave. She told you that she never even knew that Cameron Poole was going to rob Roger World on that day. You also heard from Charlie Kaminsky today, who heard Cameron Poole on the phone with Whit Bowman after the robbery. She told you that Cameron Poole was talking to Whit Bowman and explaining what happened, how he threatened Haley Floyd. And you heard she said that Whit Bowman told Cameron Poole, I never wanted anything like this to happen. Miss Bowman did not aid in the planning of this conspiracy. She did not want this conspiracy to happen, and she did not engage in this conspiracy. Now, the third way they can prove complicity is to prove that Miss Bowman had a legal responsibility to prevent the robbery that was going to take place on August 30th of 2012. Now, you heard already that Miss Bowman had no idea that this robbery was going to take place. Because she did not know about this robbery going to take place, she could not prevent it. But what she did do is when she saw Officer Thomas and Cameron Poole running towards the Tunnel of Terror, she tried to put the ride into its emergency mode. But because she was panicking because of the gunshot, she accidentally hit the blackout switch. Members of the jury, mistakes happen. Now, prosecution is coming before you and talking about a cold, convicted criminal. The only evidence that they have proven today is that Cameron Poole is in fact a criminal. Cameron Poole was the one who robbed Roger World. Cameron Poole was the one who threatened Haley Floyd. Cameron Poole was the one who got away. They have failed to prove that Miss Bowman was acting with complicity in any of the 3 charges that they brought forth to you today. Gun was drawn, people panicked, mistakes were made. Because of that, we must ask that you find Miss Whitney Bowman not guilty in theft by deception, and not guilty in robbery of the first degree against Haley Floyd and against Winston Thomas. Thank you.